I felt like I had to be doing something, proving something, producing something. So I became like this extreme volunteer wherever I could
Right.
plug in and do something where I thought it could make a difference. And, um, and I'm sure for my kids, it was hard because I mean, I look at some moms who just didn't care. Like they were just happy that,
Yeah.
and I had a structure and I wanted everything. They had to go to music. They had to get exercise. They had to go to the library. We had to do all these
So
things.
you had your routine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, I hated routine. I hated knowing that every night I had to do this at this time and that was going to be my life. And
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't love it.
if I could go back now, I would have a different opinion. I
Me
said to
too.
somebody recently, I feel like we should become parents at ET because we've learned all these life
And
lessons.
we know what to let go.
Hello and welcome. My name's Carey Sheffield, photographer and CEO of my own successful business. I'm also the host of SheNETWorks, a great believer in lifting up women and loyal supporter to those that are around me. We're all surrounded by incredible women who are breaking the molds in this thing called life. Behind every successful online persona is a real person facing struggles, failures, and living real life stories that don't always have happy endings. We will have an honest conversation, dispel this myth of perfection, and find out what they consider a success, how they achieved it, and learn what they are still reaching for. You are not alone. Join the conversation. I'm so happy to have you with us today. Nicole Millard, I'm going to let you introduce yourself from OnePurse, but I'm going to let you give me your title because I always trip on that big word. So tell us all about you. What's your role?
Well, it's great to be here. I love sitting down with you. My role is Director of Philanthropy and Communications at OnePurse.
OnePurse. And we are going to completely dive into that handbag and talk about that organization because it's one I love and one I'm going to get to know a lot more, I think, in coming years. But before we do that, I want to know a little bit more about you because it was you and Catherine. It was Catherine, right? Who's the lady that you came with to, is her name Catherine, to Isleworth for the lunch that day? She was the chair. She's not now.
Oh, Kathy Riley.
Kathy, yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
I always say people's full names. So Kathy.
Yes.
So you and Kathy came. But it was you two that really made me feel so comfortable with the organization because there's so many worthy things out there. So yeah, I definitely did resonate and we'll talk about why I did. But I want to know a little bit more about you. So as I told you, I go on like a stalk to everyone that's coming to spend some time with me. And anyone who's in Orlando knows who you are because of the organization, you have to network with just about everybody there is. But tell us about you, where you're from, and how you started out in your professional life.
Okay. Well, it's been a long career. So I grew up in Chicago, and at some point my family moved to Virginia, which is a big culture shock. But after college, I got into, corporate sales roles. So I ended up in the hotel business.
So were you studying sales marketing and that kind
I
of
studied accounting.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of
You
those
sound like my
things-
husband. He did that and he went into sales and marketing.
Yeah, it was the opposite of what I should have been studying. But I was good at math, so I thought, accounting. And at that time, when you went to college, you went because you were going to leave the next day after graduation and start a career and,
Right.
never go back home, even think about going back home. So I thought, I'll be an accountant because I'm good at math. And I was an auditor for 2 years and it was pure hell.
Was it just really boring?
It's just not me. it's my favorite part of it was when I got to do the interviews for the audits with the actual people. But then once I was back in the spreadsheets,
Yeah, you needed to be around people.
And now
You're a
it's in
people
the
person.
systems, but anyway,
You're
so-
great with people.
I got into the hotel business, which was super fun, interesting, fast paced.
Yeah, how did that happen? Did they come to your college? Because they do that.
No, I was living in Baltimore in the Inner Harbor. I had just moved with my sister, and there was a new hotel, a Stouffer Harbor Place hotel that opened. And so they had their opening staff, but I just walked in and talked to the director of sales, and he hired me right away as a market research analyst. But then that's really basically calling people, doing research. And so that just led to being a sales manager. And then that's what brought me to Orlando. So when you're in the hotel business anywhere in the country, you eventually need to pass through Orlando because it's the biggest convention destination. So I thought I would stay for 2 years, and here I am.
Well,
Like almost, I think it's 30 years later.
and did you come straight to the Swan and Dolphin? Because I know that's where
I went to the Stouffer at SeaWorld.
Right.
So I think it's called the Renaissance now.
Right.
Then the Swan and Dolphin.
And who are you with? I know her. I bumped into her in Publix this week.
Stacey Cobb.
No, the one who organises the Wine and Dine in Windermere.
Oh, CT Ellen.
CT Ellen.
She's my boss.
She's so funny.
Oh, yes.
Funny woman. So we kept bumping into each other, and she's like, "Oh, look at the state of us." I said, "We're in the supermarket. This is how we look," and we were both the same. And then Wayne came around the corner, and but such a strong character. She must have been really interesting to work for.
Oh, she was.
Yeah.
I will say we're much better friends now than when I was working for her.
Is she quite a tough cookie?
She's hardcore.
Yeah, no, she comes across that way. I mean, I suppose, you know.
But look at her now. I mean, she started the Wine and Dine 10 years ago.
And every year she says, "Yeah, I'm
going to stop."
Yeah, she won't be.
And then she keeps raising money. And she's a philanthropist now. I mean,
Yes.
she's really, I'm sure, been doing that ever since her.
I know. We sponsor a table or two, I think. Wayne does at our work. But yeah, no, interesting. But it was nice to see you guys all together. So how long were you with them? Or still in that hotel?
I did. So I went years, and then I went to visit Orlando, which used to be the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And I did what's called the citywide sales market. So bringing in the groups that would take over the convention center and then maybe 30, 40, 50 hotels. And so I traveled a lot. I traveled to Chicago and DC mostly. That's where the big associations are. So I traveled a lot. I entertained a lot. And it was great until I had twin girls, and they were premature. So I always thought I would keep working. And then I was in the hospital, and they had to be the babies. My first thought was no one else can take care of them. And my boss came to visit me like the next day in the hospital and said, "When are you coming back to work?" And I said, "I'm not.
Wow.
So
it was good that you were in a position that you could make that decision.
Absolutely. It's kind of an interesting thing. I did that like almost the same exact time my husband started his own CPA practice.
So you just made it really hard for
So
yourself.
it's really stressful for him and for me.
Tell me about the twins. Why were they early?
Because they were twins.
Were they identical?
Yes, they're identical.
Yeah, because I lost twins to twin transfusion syndrome.
Okay, read all. Yeah, I used to read about all that. Yes.
And people don't realize how dangerous it is to carry identical twins. I was like 6.5 months. But
oh my gosh,
yeah, so I mean, this was 20 odd years ago, so obviously it's much better now, and they probably would have maybe survived had it been now. But so yeah, how many weeks were they?
They were 35, but went into the hospital at 25.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so at that time, and they just turned 25. So it's 25 years ago, they made us sign something that said we knew they weren't viable, which was pretty eye-opening. But then I had placenta previa. So
yes,
I was.
And actually, the woman in my ward who saved my life had placenta previa. I was only 20. And so I fitted whilst in hospital care. I'd been there for a month. Long story, different podcast. But she was in there with me. We'd been together for a month. We were both very young. And I fitted and I woke her up. It was really early. I was about to get in the bath. If I'd got in that bath, I would be dead now.
Gosh.
But she dragged me out into the corridor and we tried to find a doctor. It was bank holiday in England. So the Monday and nobody was around. And anyway, long story. Yeah, so I thank her, but she saved me. But yeah, so did you have a C-section?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was an emergency. It ended up being an emergency.
Me too, yeah. Yeah, obviously.
I made it to 35 weeks, which was really good.
Which it's really great. I mean, I think when mine were born, I think 37, 38 weeks is pretty full term, they say, but actually it amazes me now. I get really scared when I see people going so overdue that people don't realise how dangerous that is. But yeah, I can imagine. You don't want anyone. They're so fragile and so needy.
It was instant. It was just, I couldn't even think about going back to work.
So you were at home with these two new baby girls.
Then I had a baby less than 2 years later.
Oh my goodness. I mean, torture. Yeah.
That freaked me out.
It's not that much of a shock. I explained to you how that happens.
Well, that's what my mom said when I told her. She said, "How did that happen?" And I'm like, I'm the oldest of 8 kids. You know how it happens. But
yeah.
But so it's interesting because I had this intense corporate career. Then I had this stay-at-home experience before I got into the nonprofit world.
Yes.
And the stay-at-home experience was mind-blowing in that I was so used to working so much that the first time I got in the car during the day and I was on Fairbanks in Winter Park, I'm like, why are all these people out? Why aren't they at work? Because it was before remote work.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out, like, there's a whole world that exists that I had.
Outside of
I was in my office.
corporate.
I never saw them. Isn't that crazy?
And as a person, how did you cope with being at home?
It was really hard for me.
Yeah.
It was hard in that, do you know anything about the Enneagram?
Yes.
So I'm a 1, which is a reformer. So I couldn't just happily be home and be, everything was fine. I felt like I had to be doing something, proving something, producing something. So I became like this extreme volunteer wherever I plug in and do something where I thought I could make a difference. And I'm sure for my kids it was hard because I look at some moms who just didn't care, like they were just happy that
Yeah.
and I had a structure and I wanted everything. They had to go to music, they had to get exercise, they had to go to the library, we had to do all these.
So you had your routine.
Yeah.
I see. I hated routine. I hated knowing that every night I had to do this at this time and that was going to be my life. And
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't love it.
If I could go back now, I would have a different opinion. I said to somebody recently, I feel like we should become parents at 80 because we've learned all these life lessons.
We know what to let go.
Yeah.
I mean, preschool teachers would not want me talking to preschool parents at this point in my life, because I would look at them and I would say, you cannot control what happens in your child's life. You're not in control, and things are going to happen that are unexpected, and you are going to struggle, and you're going to have challenges. And it doesn't. You can have dinner with them every night, just like they say you should. You can coach their sports. You can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
But you're going to have all these detours that are unexpected. They would be like afraid. They would tell me to leave because I think I thought if we did everything right, we would have the kids that wouldn't, do drugs, the ones that do all the things. Yeah. And so, but it doesn't work that way. I mean, God's in control, and you're going to face what you face.
And yeah, you're very much involved in your church, so I apologize for my cussing that I often do. But you forgive me anyway. I know you do.
Well, there's a T-shirt that Miles to Go sells. It's
I see. I
did worse, but I do good
for things. Yeah,
I wanted to buy every color.
Yeah. No, I have a couple of those in different formats: sweatshirt, T-shirt. Shout out to Miles to Go. But yes, and it's funny. I always love it. I have another friend who's very spiritual and a good Christian, and I'm not saying that I'm not. I just say bad words. And when she swears, I'm like, yes. I have a little moment. But anyway, it's because I swore earlier, people, that I'm saying that. So you are this super mum, and your kids are showing up to every event looking super smart. Did they match? Did your girls match?
I never matched them. I did like coordinating.
Oh, I like that.
So they could, offset each other.
Oh, perfect. And then did you have a boy?
And then I had a boy. So 2 girls and then I had a boy.
Yeah, that was an interesting dynamic. How did that change things for you? I mean, you had no time. You had 3 children under 3.
Well, I was very fortunate. I had a nanny part-time. So I would take my son, because he was so easy, just grab one little carrier and leave the girls with the nanny. And he went everywhere with me. And with them, I was always afraid of germs, because they were preemies. I was afraid of germs, of being out, of whatever. And so he had the life. He had the good life with me.
Yeah, and I bet you're still close
with my kids.
All of them, I'm sure.
Yes, yes. And just coming.
But the girls have each other, right?
Well, you would think that.
Oh, okay.
They're opposite.
And they're
so opposite.
Yeah. Okay. They're finding their own path in life.
Absolutely.
So yeah, obviously motherhood. So you started volunteering, and then when did volunteering take you out of the house more back into a full-time situation?
So I started doing a lot of work at their school, which is the Christ School, right in downtown Orlando.
Okay.
It's a K-8 downtown. And right at the time of the recession in 2008. And so the head of school asked me, like, can I just contract with you? We have got to figure out, because once the recession hit, people were just, they didn't want to pay tuition. They weren't able to pay tuition. They didn't want to pay tuition. He goes, we need somebody to like talk to everybody, figure this out. And it turned into a brand new full-time position that was, I think it was called something like Director of Marketing and Enrollment. And it was amazing. It was an amazing job that we did a whole like survey of the whole city. And then we did a whole rebrand of who we were. And went through every possible marketing thing, branding, marketing, communications thing you can go through. And so I was there about 5.5 years. Loved it, because my kids were there. So that made it nice.
What's Jobs Partnership?
That's a nonprofit. So whereas the Christ School is a nonprofit, but it's a school. Private schools have tuition. So you have that revenue source. And you have students. So usually educated students from educated families. But so Jobs Partnership was my kind of wake-up call, or just real being able to see communities in need, vulnerable people that did not have resources, did not have any mentoring or networks, or they generationally were struggling. And so that's where I saw that at Jobs Partnership. And that started also, I was volunteering when I was at the Christ School. I was a coach for Jobs Partnership.
Is your husband scared to let you out of the house? Because you're coming back with I said yes to this.
And now I'm working there full time. No, but that's what happened with JP, Jobs Partnership. President Mark Stanikis asked me if I would consider doing fundraising, because I did not have a fundraiser in almost 20 years. I had never had a fundraiser because it was him. And I said, sure. So that's how I ended up at Jobs Partnership. And so that's human services nonprofit. You were working with, you were raising all your money, and you were working with vulnerable populations.
How do you find, what's the difference in your world with working with nonprofit and say working for a company like Disney? Because you were in sales and marketing in Disney too.
Yes.
So
big difference.
What does that look like?
Carey, it should be the same. And I believe every nonprofit should run like a business. But the way culturally, the way society looks at nonprofits is different. They look at nonprofits as they should not spend money. They should have skeleton staffs. Right. So there's a percentage that is out there. I don't know how it started, that a lot of nonprofits are kind of judged on, and it's not something that there's a formula that everyone uses. So you can really come up with anything, but it's what percentage of the money that you raise goes to programs. And if it's 70% or higher, that is looked at as positive. And if it's lower, it's looked at as negative. And the higher, the better. But the reality is, when you are in a nonprofit, I mean, if you want to have a marketing staff, it's going to not be all going to the program. It's going to everything. And you're working with people that they may need more services wrapped around them than when you're hiring someone, like you mentioned, Disney. A lot of times, corporations, they hire to experience, and they hire to skills, and they hire to who's going to be the best person for the job and get it done. Nonprofit, we're working with vulnerable populations, and when we're serving them, in our case, we're employing them, so it's different. But when you're serving them, it takes more resources than when you are serving someone who has their own resources, or has their healthy families to help them, or a community that's wrapped around them. So the difference, I think, is in the really, I think, how culture just looks at a nonprofit, and it's not. And
you've gone in that direction. I mean, you started going in it really from when the twins were born, and you started volunteering things. Why do you feel that you as a person felt more comfortable and gravitated towards the charitable world than going back into the corporate market?
That's such a good question. There's a couple of things. I think alongside each other, there was, I was in my kind of faith walk. I was just learning more, just coming along farther in my understanding of who God is, who Jesus is, what he did for me. I grew up Catholic, and I really had never explored that. It was more just you showed up at church on
Formulaic. For me, the Catholic religion feels like a formula rather than a
is.
feeling.
And, you know, if you don't go on Sunday, you feel guilty all week.
Yes.
But
It was a guilt shame
yes,
kind of
and it
experience.
really was back when I was growing up, and so, and I went to Catholic schools all my life, so that made it even more intense. But so coming out of that and just learning that, you know, you can't have a relationship with Jesus. The priest does not have to tell you how to think about it.
Yes.
Anyway, so I was on that walk, and while I was at the Christ School, the head of school put me through a program called Life Work Leadership, which it's a faith and work leadership program, like Leadership Winter Park, Leadership Orlando, but it's faith-based,
Right.
and they bring in national speakers as well as local. And that was eye-opening to me because I had been in the corporate world where you would never, you would never talk faith. You would, and I was in the industry where people were doing all kinds of crazy stuff because you're entertaining and you're out of town a lot. So those two things were happening. And I think I was just being made aware of, oh my gosh, there's so many needs in the community that I had never even seen before.
Yeah.
And I had had no proximity to them. So I was getting, as I got more and more proximity, you can't help but start, wanting to serve people.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, you find your passion. So if you said to me, Carey, if you said, hey, listen, I have a table at the Association of Save the Sea Urchins. I'd love for you to come. I might come just to see, but my passion, my heart would not be with the sea urchins.
Yes.
So I think people find their place, whatever it is, the arts, women, food, there's just so many great
absolutely.
organizations serving people because there's so many needs. So I think you can't unsee the need.
Yeah.
And I think, and then on the other side of that, in the generosity space, once you start giving, you don't stop giving. Because I believe giving just generates more giving. And so that's why I think people are also on a generosity journey. That once they start understanding that, they have resources that can impact other people. They just have to let go.
Yeah.
Once they let go, then it's such a credible journey to see them seeking other ways to give or just letting go more and more.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel that I can't always write the biggest check, and I've said that we've had this conversation, but I can connect people and I can introduce people and I can create events. I'm a doer and I'm an operational person. So I can make something out of nothing, and I don't mind asking, and so, I'm a doer. So and it's just interesting. And I think actually we can all do a lot more. We just don't know how we can.
Right. That's
and we
it.
don't people are scared to give up their money or their handbag or the whatever it is. They're afraid to give it away. They're afraid that they are going to suffer if they give. And the irony being is the more you give, the more you get. But hey, that's a whole different journey you need to find yourself on. Yes. And I don't hold, my husband would shoot me for saying it, I don't hold on to money in that way. But he says I don't have to manage it, so that's why I don't. But if I have it in my hand, it's going out into somebody else's hand. That's just how it is. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about how you got involved with OnePurse and how it was introduced to you.
Well, I will say,
excuse me.
And I said this at the last board meeting. I was celebrating the 3 years with OnePurse, and we were all sitting at lunch, and I started crying, and I said, it can only be a God thing. God purposed me to be here because the work is so hard. But I love it, and I can't imagine doing anything else. Mm-hmm. So I was looking in my mind, I was going to be going to a big nonprofit, or I was going to be going to a foundation and be one of those people that gets to give out the money. Mm-hmm. And 3 different people reached out to me and said, have you talked to OnePurse? They're looking for somebody for development, which is fundraising. And I looked them up. And I said, oh, no, they're too small. No, I'm looking big now. I'm going somewhere big, and I'm going to give out the money. And it was just a journey I met with Heather Case. She's the founder and CEO. Amazing woman. I just loved her from the minute we met. Then she had me tour, and then I met some board members who were just so incredible. And things just progressed. And then it just was it was clear to me when they made an offer that I was meant to be there.
So, and tell us a little bit about why. I know Heather's not here with us today, and I know she tells her story really well, but why did Heather start this?
Well, she too came from a corporate space,
Right.
and had 4 kids, and thought she was going to be a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
But like some of us, when we go home, that's it. It's different when you're actually home, when you've been in such a
Yes.
fast-paced corporate environment where there's goals.
Well, you start to die a little bit, like at least in the mind, you know, like yes,
It's kind of your identity. You're going through a whole identity, and awakening.
and it happened to a lot of women at the other side of their parenting, like when they're suddenly empty nesters,
Yes.
free birds, as I like to call myself, and
Yes, so many women
start questioning life and who you are. Yeah,
am I here? What have I impacted anybody? But so she too started to become more and more aware of the need in the community,
right.
as she was joining her Bible studies, and just becoming more involved in the community. And she has a really amazing calling story. So she went into Chic Boutique, which is on Crane.
Yes,
in Winter Park.
yeah. Well, you know, my lovely friend Ashley. That's one of her favorite places, Ashley Appleby, Chic Boutique. Yeah.
Yes, they're wonderful. They partner with OnePurse.
Yes,
They give us
great.
the bags that don't sell. So she went in there and saw a Furla bag, and it was a designer bag, and it was expensive. And she was on this, she'll say, the stay-at-home mom budget now.
Yeah.
So she didn't buy it, but she kept going back, like trying to justify the purchase.
Yes.
And it was in one of those visits when she just got this feeling, spirit-led thoughts that for the price of that one purse, she could help or impact another woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so she then started to believe she needed to do something with purses.
Well.
And it was from that point on, she gathered told all her Bible study friends, bring all the purses you're not using anymore.
Yeah.
She did a brunch in her home. They all traded bags, left money, traded bags.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a trade, a swap.
Yeah.
And then they gave you money. And then she would give it to frontline organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the evolution.
That's the great
quite a bit since then.
Yeah.
Knowing the need in the community and serving women that once you interact or intercept women who have been trafficked, there's so much more. And so that's where she ended up.
And that's it. So let's talk about that. So for anyone who's not, aware of who you are, and I think I may have heard about you. Obviously, I've only lived in Orlando for 8 years, but I didn't know enough about you. Tell us about OnePurse and what it is that they do.
Well, 3 years ago, believe it or not, I had not heard about OnePurse. So, before I ended up, and we've grown tremendously in the last 3 years. And so hopefully more and more and more women and people, men, are hearing about us. But we're a nonprofit. We serve women overcoming abuse, addiction, exploitation, and trafficking. And we say on their journey to wholeness and economic freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hoping we're serving them to provide economic freedom, so they do not get re-exploited, re-trafficked, go back to abusive relationships, go back to addictive friends and communities. So that's why we are serving in the gap for trying to prevent that.
And how do you recognize a woman that's carrying that label? Because it doesn't look like we think.
That's a good question. So we serve women. So there's a whole continuum of care for the women. And we are not in the space where we're rescuing them. We're not a safe home. We're not a transition home. There are so many organizations that serve them, because it's a long journey when you come out of trafficking, because likely you have gone back in a few times too. So it's been years and years. So when we intercept the women, it's because another organization along their continuum of care has referred them to us and said they are healthy enough for work or education, because that's what we do. Mm-hmm. So we do employment and we do education through scholarships, and we employ them here in Orlando. Yeah. And that's where the purse is.
Yes.
So you can imagine that's confusing. We're a nonprofit serving women overcoming these issues, but we have this unique social enterprise where
it's like an empowerment program, though.
It's all empowerment.
So you need money to empower people. So, people don't understand what empowerment is it's about teaching people to raise themselves or to care for themselves. Yeah, absolutely. So that they don't need charity, but you need the charity in order to fund the empowerment program. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we employ them, and they're coming to OnePurse to work, to run this e-commerce workshop. Some of them have never used email. They definitely have not used, Sheets or Google Sheets or Google Docs or been in meetings or been accountable for an inventory. So they're learning a ton of skills, but we're trauma informed. So we're kinder, gentler. And so that's the employment, and you have to be healthy enough to come to work every day.
Yes.
So that's a big deal. And then the education side is scholarships, and that's all over the country. And we have partners all over the country that refer women to us and say they're ready for this next step, ready to go to school, vocational training, whatever it is. And it's whatever they want. It's, I want to be a cosmetologist, or I want to be a counselor and help other women, or you name it.
What have you learned about what's happening to women? Let's just talk about our neighborhood, right? Let's not go further afield because we know what's happening. But what are some of the things that you found out that you just had no idea was happening?
That most of us women have had some experience in our lives of domestic violence, sexual abuse. There's something in a lot of our stories that would be in the women we serve stories. The difference is we've had families, we've had resources, we've had what we needed to get past, hopefully get past those circumstances. And the women that are being trafficked, the women that are in the strip clubs, and the women that they're in pure poverty if they are not doing what they're doing, and they are not. I mean, someone is controlling that, and someone is keeping the revenue from that. But it's happening everywhere.
And I know I want people to know that a girl isn't necessarily, and this does happen, but a girl isn't necessarily taken off the street, thrown in a van, locked in a room, not let out of the room. These people actually exist in the world around us and go to the supermarket, but they're in a controlled environment. So don't think that they're kidnapped and behind bars.
No, that is, I think, entertainment-wise, what we believe to be true.
Miseducation.
It's actually the opposite. So there's a couple of statistics. One is that it's less than 3%, and one is less than 5% happens that way. The rest is through their vulnerabilities, and someone who is exploiting someone is skilled, masterful at finding those women, girls that are so vulnerable. Maybe they have been in foster care system. Maybe they have drug abuse in their family. There's just so many things that make them vulnerable, and these traffickers can be the, knight in shining armor. There is a really sad statistic. I think anybody would agree, because we get this question a lot. What is the average age that someone is trafficked? It's 12.
Yeah.
And it's social media now.
So, and this is really tough to hear, and I think we're very aware of it, and well, I mean, I was groomed when I was young too, like, so it exists, it's out there, and it's normally the people that you trust and the people that
familial.
Although in the lower it can happen in more privileged surroundings, but I know it can happen. Really, it happens a lot more too in poorer demographics and people that don't have means. I mean, and also that's just a lack of education, and sometimes it's just desperation. But yeah, there's also, and it should not be, but I feel there's a lot of stigma around it. There's also a lot of judgment on the people that are victims of this. Like, well, why didn't you leave? And why didn't you get out of it? And why did you allow... And I struggle with this. So this must be something that you've been educated in as an organization to get past in order for people to recognize it. And I've talked about gratitude with people before and how it makes people feel. And sometimes, and you've heard me say this, sometimes people's help can feel uncomfortable. It can make you feel submissive. It can make you feel patronized, and so it's finding that level that you're not talking down to someone because of their circumstances or because of what's happened to them. I mean, So what, I mean, to go from walking into chic boutique and seeing this bag and having this thought to creating an organization that's educating, informing, giving people jobs, but also knowing psychologically how to be around these people that have been victim of their circumstances. How does all that happen? What do you know? I mean, how many years has Heather been? How long has this been around?
She began the organization in 2011.
So it's a little while, over a decade. But she must have been learning along the way. I mean, there must have been stumbling blocks. I don't know, Heather would have to tell that story, but she realized, okay, I need to educate myself on how to have this conversation and that conversation.
A lot of that, a lot of evolution, a lot of, turning 180s every once in a while. It's hard work because, like all of us, we don't have perfect, linear lives that all of a sudden everything's better and everything's great and there's no more struggles. So it's hard work because all of the women that we serve are experiencing, intense physical trauma, emotional trauma, spiritual trauma, and it has taken a toll. And their lives aren't perfect, and there are, stops and starts, and there are things that happen, and that's sad when we experience that. But then we live in the hope is what we live in, no matter what, for every single woman, and that we are working, serving, loving one woman at a time.
Yeah.
And so we do what we can with one woman at a time, and we're not looking for, let's get them in and out. Let's do this. Let's give numbers so that, the community thinks we're serving so many people. We are changing their lives one at a time and generationally. Well, it's what they're overcoming is sometimes unimaginable to us. I mean, if you haven't been heard some of the experiences, and we don't talk about the experiences. We really just live in the just with hope and
what you're doing,
what's possible, and that every woman is worthy. What we are doing, and that's why we're out in the community bringing people in. Every woman is worthy of the resources that we're providing, because that is going to give them economic freedom, so they don't have to go back, so their children don't have to be taken away, or all of that they can have a path.
So for every woman you save, I guarantee you're saving 10 more, because they'll go on to do the same thing. And that's
it's true.
Probably where my mindset, I'm not like a do-gooder. It's not like I wake up and go, I need to do all these good things. I think that I'm just, and I fail so much in life, but I feel preconditioned. If I have a real problem with watching people struggle, and I will not be ignorant to it. I will not change the channel. Like, if I see something, I will watch it. And I think it's really important. My husband sometimes says to me, why do you watch these things? I'm like, I can't ignore it. If I can't do anything about it, I can at least acknowledge it, because I think having ignorance, like I will make eye contact with somebody that's homeless, even if I can't save them from that situation, because to ignore them is more hurtful to not pay attention.
Treat them with dignity.
Let's talk about some good stuff then. So this is what OnePurse is all about, and I definitely felt a kinship with them, not because I necessarily ended up in some of the dire circumstances those women did. I could very well have done. And I didn't actually have a family support network, but I managed to take care of myself. So, ingrained tenacity, but it could have definitely gone the other way. And I think people definitely tried to take me down that road. So I definitely felt kinship. I love the way you do it. It is a simple formula on the front end. And so I think that's what's attractive about it too. And just, how humble you all were as people, but determined. I really enjoyed that. It wasn't an egotistical approach. So there are some organizations that unfortunately have become so big that it's a little bit overwhelming, and it feels a little bit too, I don't know, not arrogant's the wrong word, but anyway, it's horses for courses, right? We all feel different things towards different people. So once you've got them in, and tell us some of the good stuff. Tell us about what people are doing, and some good stories about people that have come through OnePurse.
Have come through. Well, there's great stories for like volunteer stories, donor stories. Probably the most amazing story is the manager of our e-commerce program. She was the first employee in the repurpose project. That's the running the e-commerce.
And that is selling bags that people have donated,
Right.
without and profits going, not profits,
Back into the program.
yes, resources.
So
going.
donated bags, so there's no cost to us, and then they're resold, and then money comes back in the program.
And the program, tell us the formula of the program.
It's so there's two primary programs. So
Yes.
the employment one is women doing everything from the time purses come in the door, cleaning.
So they just literally turn up to work one day for you.
Yeah.
You start work Monday, and this is like your training program to go out into the world. It's like a youth training scheme. But
But
yes.
it's we intend it to be 2 years. It could be less because a lot of women have other dreams. We had one who left us last fall because she always wanted to be an EMT. She came in wanting to be an EMT. We scholarshiped her first, but then she needed a job. She was a single mom.
Yes.
So then we employed her, and then a year and a half later, she was certified, had a job with the fire department as an EMT.
Wow.
So that's great. But Megan is too. She is also working on her education. Has her associates.
This is your
working on her
e-commerce
bachelor's
ladder, yeah.
at UCF.
Wow.
But she next month moves into a habitat home,
Wow.
and there's amazing things about that.
Yes.
That whole story. But one of the main reasons she was able to get it is her steady employment and her progressive, wage increases and responsibility. And now she's gonna have her own home, and it's brand new, and it's a really nice place.
No, that's
So
incredible.
I love that story.
And how many, I know you do one person at a time. Do you know how many people that you've served through the program?
Yes. Not exactly. I'll give you some
Yes.
numbers. Through the scholarship program, which started in 2016, over 500 women have received scholarships, and that's for college tuition or vocational training, or some for resources. We used to like laptops.
Yes.
But now we've partnered with Eris Foundation, who that is what they do. So they're giving us a laptop. So this is it's great partnership. Now we have more money to give for college and vocational training. So that's over 500. The employment program started at the end of 2020. So it was born out of COVID, and it really started at the end of the last quarter. So since then, we've employed 8 women. And then many more have gone through we have an empowerment program, which is, it's a course. It's like 18, Heather and a board member who was a mental health counselor wrote it a few years ago. And so 100 more maybe have gone through the empowerment program, either online or as an in-person cohort.
And this is to get them ready to go out into the workforce.
Yes. Yes. So they can have their own careers, so they don't ever have to think they're going to be in poverty, or that they ever have to do anything
I mean,
else.
I think this is probably obvious to most, but what are some of their struggles when they go out to go to work? I mean, getting interviews, going to an interview and being seen.
Yeah, it's the same. There's the same struggle that a lot of women have, and that's if you have children, how do you manage, all the logistics of having children and having a full-time job, and there's a lot of pressure in that, and it's expensive. So that's one of them, and I think just being able to stay on a steady course and not fall back into bad relationships or relying on people that were not for you to begin with, but you almost, feel like you might need to start relying on them. So I think that they just have to, keep trying to overcome some of the same relationships that they had before if they're in the same community.
So where do you see yourself and your relationship with OnePurse, and what's next for OnePurse? Do you want to see it grow? Do you want to see it stay as it is? I know that it's Heather's, the founder, but you guys feel very much like like the bones of it. So is there a structural change to it? Do you see a growth? What do you need to do next? I mean, what is the biggest need?
So that we do want to grow. And the growth plan is, we have a conceptual design right now from Hunt and Brady, local architects, and it's to have possibly repurposed warehouse space somewhere in Central Florida where we can employ up to 25 women in the repurposed project. So meaning 25 women getting all these skills, doing the whole e-commerce, because the e-commerce market globally is in the billions and growing in the billions. And our proof of concept works. So what we need for that is more purses. We can employ more women. So it would be moving into potentially warehouse space, but some much bigger space. And then also having attached to that some kind of community space, like a coffee shop, that type of thing, where, we all meet people for coffee.
Creating a community.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that they're learning, it's a place you would want to go.
Yeah.
But it's also, they're learning about the mission of OnePurse. They're not interacting with the women because we try to keep them,
Well, they're not, you're not creating a stage for people to go up.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Kind of more anonymous than to, heal and become healthy at their own pace. But community space for proximity and to maybe buy and drop off purses, buy purses. And then we also want to have meeting space as part of that because we do training. We could open it up to all kinds of organizations that do training that our women are already doing somewhere else. Maybe it's, NA, AA.
Do you facilitate that kind of counseling, dating, straight?
No, so and that's one of, and Heather she would probably love to talk to you about this, but that is one of the things that we learned. Originally, it was a work therapy program. We took the therapy part out because we're a workplace and we're trying to model professional workplace.
Yes.
And when you get into people's trauma and you're doing therapy, that doesn't work well in the workplace. So there are so many amazing organizations like One More Child and others that do trauma-informed rapid counseling.
And it's so interesting you say that because I remember when I first got involved with Zoe, which is an empowerment program, but it's in Africa and India and China. They used to give money. They used to give them something at the beginning, but they noticed that then parents, because these are 100% pure orphans and they have to be no grandparents, nothing to help them, because the program was failing, because they were helping them. People were sending their kids to get stuff. And the program was failing. And if you're handing out, they're never actually empowering themselves. They're always just taking what's being handed to them. So they're not learning and growing. So, I think it's okay. It's a bit like, it's like a business, isn't it? You do something and that didn't work. So you try it a different way and you learn from your mistakes. So it's really interesting to hear that. And I think that maybe people didn't know that. They would assume that you were taking someone in at the end of their trial, like, what they've been through, and then you're fixing them and you're nurturing them and then you're putting them on the workplace. It's good to hear that. And I'm sure you can hand out a number or whatever and tell them where to go.
Well, they all have counseling already. And that's the thing. They all have counseling and they all have different works. They're still working.
So they're on that road.
They're
and
on
that
the
part of that
journey,
journey
yes.
where they're ready to go out in the workforce.
Yeah. So we're really not the end. There's never an end. We're all evolving and getting stronger, but kind of a gap that was where they were not being served, because there are great safe homes, transition homes, so many great programs in Central Florida and everywhere, but then it's kind of, that's it.
Yeah.
You leave the safe home or transition home, and then what?
Talk to me about this, your new enterprise that's happening right now, your new campaign. Let's get it out there.
Oh my gosh, yes. The One Beautiful Bag Challenge.
Yes.
Which you are part of, which I'm thrilled.
I'm a bit scared, but yeah. I've got to have my photograph taken. I'm used to being the other side of the camera.
And I'm not used to being in a podcast.
There we go. We're doing all the new things.
So
One Beautiful Bag Challenge.
One Beautiful Bag. And that is to turn the faucet on to have women become aware that one purse in their closet can impact a woman's life. And this is a closet anywhere in America. It doesn't need to be Central Florida. But this campaign is primarily a social media campaign. And then we're also partnering with Orlando Cleaners, which has 18 locations, because they are the Alexanders. Trish Alexander is on our board.
Right.
And so she has made that possible for us. So for the thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of customers they have, we're we're going to partner with them as well.
And do they clean the bags? Do they?
They actually they do when we have some higher end bags.
Yes.
That we are at the end of what we can do.
Right.
We have an expert there who does clean things for us, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So the campaign, the goal is to generate 3,000 donated purses this year before the end of the year.
Right.
And then obviously the hope is then the awareness just keeps growing and the purses just keep coming from not only Central Florida, but beyond. And so we're kicking it off with our local influencers like you. And July with the Scout Guide.
Yes.
And we have about 10 women who have agreed to help us kick it off with a photo shoot, and then we'll launch it through social media. But then we're planning to do posters and other things, and then be in all of these cleaners.
And what that looks like is the photo shoot is just because you need a visual in order for people to understand the concept. For those listening, I mean, I'm it's so funny because I'm not a shoes and bags person. I do like sneakers, but I'm terrible. I walk around with a handful of stuff and not handbags. I'm just it's just a funny thing. But I do completely buy into this. So but there are a lot of people that bags are life. There are waiting lists out there to even buy a bag, like Hermes and all these things.
And there are collectors. People just
Yeah, absolutely. But just to think, if you look in your closet, if there's a shelf with handbags on it, purses, and it's still got the dust cloth on it, and you've not looked at it for 5 years, and I promise you, it can be doing better than it is doing right now, sat on that shelf. So tell us about them, and it would be amazing to have a Chanel, a Cartier, or I didn't even know the labels, but it would be amazing if you have a designer level purse that you would find in your heart to donate, because you're going to be literally changing somebody's life with that. Talk to us though. You do take purses at all levels, but there is a level that purse needs to look almost new.
Well, and we say with a resale value of $50 or more. I believe most of us have no idea what the resale value of our purse is, and our average purse sale is much higher than that. So, but we just use that as a kind of foundationally.
So your Michael Kors bags and above,
Coach, Junie Burke, Tory Burch, Kate Spade, and then everything from there to
absolutely
Hermes.
Right. And many of us have been donated and given and gifted something that we're not in love with, that doesn't represent who we are. And they're the bags that OnePurse will definitely find a home for.
Yes.
And be able
it's
to.
the actual work that the women do. So they are touching it. They are handling it. It's their employment. And then the resources come back in. And so with the campaign, we're asking women to be photographed with the bag that they're donating, and then tagging some of their friends, to challenging them to donate a bag as well.
Yeah, so actually for all of you ladies out there listening, if you don't know where to go with the purse, where can they take it?
Well, if they're locally, we're in Thornton Park on Mills, or just go to our website, which is onepurse.org, and there's a whole link about donating a purse. It can be shipped, pick it up.
And you show up at events too. So somebody's having an event where there's lots of women, you can actually have a portal for people to come and bring bags. We talked about the wine and dine. You've all seen OnePurse at wine and dine.
And I'm sorry, let me just add, for those people, we do an in-kind donation receipt. So everyone gets one of those.
But that's one way they can help. Another way that they can help the organization is, large donations, like one-offs, sponsors, there's that opportunity.
So we're always seeking what we call business and community partners. Anyone who owns a business or is part of a big major corporation, that the financial generosity is what sustains the mission. So we can plan to hire more women. We can plan to give more scholarships when we have our base of business and community partners, and we know that's coming in. And that's so we're always looking for that. And we do a lot of recognition for that on our website and our communications. And then, financial giving is always.
Yeah, and I do a nominal fee every month.
Yes,
that
we love our recurring donor program is called the Dream Giver program, and that's for monthly donors. And we're trying to grow that as well. And right now we just produced a candle. Actually, it's a beautiful candle, and we have matches wooden matches, but and I call it the scent of hope and freedom.
Well,
it is a
it's
very
beautiful
unique scent, and
Yes.
they're beautiful. So for our new dream givers, until we run out, we are
You have these candles, which I
probably
love.
till the end of the year.
And do you know what? I mean, I'll be translucent. I mean, I'm donating $50 a month, but it's I know I'm very lucky to say that I'm not feeling that. I don't notice that. It's something I can easily make that decision. And of course, we do all sorts of different things, but that one donation, it adds up. And if 50 of us do it, 100 of us do it. So if you feel that you're not in a position to donate a bag, but you can give $50 a month or something, then do have a look at it. I think we're all too aware of how these lives were affected, and the re-educating or the educating and putting these ladies out into the workforce for themselves really does affect so many more people beyond them too, and their children. And generational trauma is a real thing. Now, before we close, I just want you to, what's next for you, Nicole? You're here, you're doing this. Do you see yourself growing more and more in this organization? And
Yes, I feel so. Thank you for asking that. I just had a revelation. Well, first of all, within OnePurse, yes, I want to stay forever, but I mean, obviously my time will be limited at some point. And my focus really, I'd like to, I'm out in the community all the time. I'd like to continue that and continue inviting business and community partners in and working with major donors. But I just had a revelation. There's a lot of recent college graduates have reached out to me just to understand fundraising space, philanthropy space, nonprofit space. And so I'm having coffees here and there. And it just occurred to me, honestly, this week, I need to make that a thing where I am available. Like, so, I have so much knowledge from being in the sales, corporate sales world, and then fundraising and just best practices and just life stuff about it. I would really like to figure out a way where I just make that something I'm available to meet with people, younger people that are either just getting into fundraising, thinking about it, because there's a need. There is a big need for fundraising, and there's over 6,000 nonprofits in Central Florida. They all rely on generous giving. So it would be great to have people coming, they're just learning more, wanting to be part of that.
Well, listen, you're really good at sitting in front of a microphone and having a conversation. And the podcasting world, the young generation are listening to this now. They're listening to audio. So you know what? Like, maybe, educating people on this kind of platform, it's not hard to do. You can do it with a laptop and a microphone and just start speaking the words and putting it out in the universe. So I definitely think, you said you haven't done this before. You haven't done a podcast. Well, there you go. It wasn't hard, was it? It was really easy to just sit here and chat.
And I'm thinking of everything we both should have said.
But no, absolutely. And I tell you, the funny thing is, as soon as people ring off, they always go, "Oh, yeah, I meant to say this." So, is there anything that you mean to say before we go that you feel that you haven't brought into the conversation today that I haven't asked? Let's talk about your dog too. Moose.
Oh, Moose.
Moose seems to be famous. When he goes talking about you, everyone talks about your dog, Moose. Yes.
I love Moose.
Yes.
He's probably 12 years old. He's getting older, which is kind of sad. He's my first dog ever. And he to me represents love. Like, there were times when I was ready to wring the neck of my son or someone, one of my kids, and there would be Moose just, follow me around, licking me, whatever. And I would just feel the
pacifying
as my kids were pushing me away. He was always there.
Yeah. So, but you're sharing the love and you're doing that out there. But I interrupted what you were going to say. But anything else that you want to just impart on people before we go?
I just think like you said, there's so much need in the community. And you said you don't like to look away from it. That's what I think people should embrace. Bring yourself somehow into proximity. And that's the hardest thing to figure out how to do, because we walk around and we see people, we don't know how to help. We don't know what we should do, but just, do it like what you've done is just educate yourself, read, look at whatever.
Why do you think people run away from it? Why do you think people inherently, there are people that just don't care, and that's fine. That's who you are. But, I just don't understand why people like to live in ignorance of it. Because you know it's there in the back of your mind. You know it's happening. So to pretend you didn't see, to pretend to not acknowledge, or to just blatantly not acknowledge, I can't get my head around that. And I can't have an opinion about all the things that, there's things going on in the world right now that I feel my ignorance into the entire subject. I always say to my kids, don't talk about something until you know everything about both sides. We cannot have an opinion on something that's happening if we haven't looked at it from both ways. And if you see someone doing something bad, why are they doing that thing bad? I think I've learned now to try and see their point of view, if they're reacting or they just don't know better, or they're just pure evil. Most people aren't just pure evil. No. There's a very small percentage. Even the people you're talking about that are trafficking these girls, they're very likely to have come from a bad place themselves. They could be children of traffickers. What we're trying to do here is stop the fact that it's happening, the generations of it. It's about nipping it at the bud. I mean, we're so far into it now, and human slavery has never stopped. But
and it's the demand side that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole different. We're just opening a whole can of worms. But yeah, I don't understand the mentality. But how do we make it so? And here's the thing: how do we make it so that people aren't afraid to talk, to see, to acknowledge?
Well, as you were talking, it occurred to me: what if those of us who have some proximity to the issues start inviting people in? Inviting people into whatever volunteer experience you're doing. Invite someone to come with you. If you're going to a fundraising luncheon or dinner, whatever, breakfast, go so you can learn. Mm-hmm. There's usually no pressure to give it anybody, different.
Yes, of course.
It's just, I think it's up to us to really keep inviting people in, keep trying to create more awareness, because then people will be more comfortable. Mm-hmm. And once you take your first few steps, and then you find whatever you really care about, and maybe you find a way to volunteer, and maybe you get more involved, and maybe you're helping that way.
Go beyond the gala. I think the trouble is,
I like that. Go beyond the gala.
Because there's so many people that just turn up and they dress up and they wear the things and they write the check, and they actually do not know or see what their money is doing and how it's affecting and changing people's lives for the better. I think that we just need to step out of comfortable and go and take a look. Find the thing that resonates with you. And don't look at the numbers anymore. Go and see what the change is. I think if we could see the change, then we'll be more willing to participate in any way. If you don't have money, you can roll up your sleeves. There's ways of helping or just connecting people.
Yeah. But, there's in all spaces. You can help legislate, maybe that's your area. Or
absolutely. Yeah. All the things. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for bringing OnePurse to me. I'm so happy to be involved with the organization. I'm excited and a little bit nervous, as you were well aware. I almost bailed completely, and I'm like, no, it was a privilege to be asked. So I'm looking forward to being a part of that.
I should have put on my email, please do not cancel. I love that on your email.
Please do not cancel. That was a really nice way of saying, no, I won't let you.
You said you were doing it.
Absolutely. It's a commitment, and so thank you very much. I'm so glad you come along.
Well, people like you are just so rare, and you've been so good to OnePurse in just creating awareness all over town. Everything you do, Bareface Brunch, even just the Lodge of the Scout Guide, you put out a reel for us. You're there and you're talking about
look, these are things that I can do and that I can bring to the table. You brought this to the table, and you're very eloquent, and you do it with a great big heart, and that's why we're here having this conversation. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you.